What are Democrats focused on? They are scrambling to change the headlines, praying that the nation will focus on their partisan witch hunt instead of our pocketbooks. It will not work. Just this week, Nancy Pelosi's illegitimate January 6th committee secretly hired the former president of ABC News to produce these shameless primetime show. This was the same producer that covered up victims of Jeff Epstein. This further solidifies what we have known from day one. This committee is not about seeking the truth. It is a smear campaign against President Donald Trump, against Republican members of Congress, and against Trump voters across this country. This committee is unconstitutional. It is illegitimate. It was not put together according to the rules of the House. It does not serve any true legislative or oversight purpose. And it is not about finding out why Nancy Pelosi left the Capitol so ill-prepared that day. It is designed to punish Nancy Pelosi's political opponents. And it will not prevent another January 6th from happening. And it does nothing to address the numerous crises Americans are suffering from because of Joe Biden and Nancy Pelosi's radical far-left agenda.
Representative Elise Stefanik has her band of MAGA minions there to provide a prebuttal, if you would, to tonight's hearings, because they're afraid of what just might go down because of what happened on January 6th when Trump's supporters stormed the Capitol in an attempted coup of the country after he lost his re-election bid. That's just the facts of what happened. Now, as you can see there, as Stefanik is talking, there's not much about the reasons why it's okay that they stormed the Capitol. It's more about this guy was there, and then they used a producer here, and then also nobody cares. That's actually what she went into next, like the usual deflection Republican talking point. Let her continue.
Americans are struggling daily. They are faced with historically high gas prices that have now doubled since Joe Biden took office. Over 70% of our nation's baby formula is out of stock. Homicides are up nearly 50%. Inflation is at a 40-year high, and one of the largest migrant caravans ever is headed to our nation's southern border. So while Democrats obsess over this illegitimate hearing, House Republicans will be setting the record straight and telling the truth about lame duck Speaker Nancy Pelosi's sham political witch hunt. And most importantly, we will continue to focus on the important issues that matter facing the American people and how to solve the crises that Joe Biden and House Democrats' far-left agenda have created, from the border crisis to the baby formula shortage to inflation to soaring gas prices.
The Republicans are not going to focus on this sham committee hearing that's going to expose a bunch of truth the Republicans, specifically Donald Trump, have been trying to avoid for a year, over a year. Instead, they're going to talk about the baby formula shortage. They're going to talk about gas prices and inflation. Aren't you sick of these Democrats that aren't doing anything? Let's go to some of these graphics about what's been happening. The House of Representatives, this is back in the middle of May. The House of Representatives passed a bill along party lines on Thursday that seeks to lower gas prices. The House of Representatives, I'm gonna say that again, passed a bill along party lines Thursday that seeks to lower gas prices by cracking down on alleged price gouging by energy companies. The House vote was 217 to 207. That was close. Here's the best part. No Republican supported the bill, suggesting it's likely headed for failure in the Senate, where Senate Republicans will make sure that it doesn't pass. It's weird how those Democrats keep ignoring the problem of high gas prices. How about that baby formula problem, Elise? House GOP leaders were among the 192 Republicans who voted against providing $28 million in aid to the Food and Drug Administration to address the shortage of baby formula within days of criticizing Biden for not doing enough on the issue. So, as Elise Stefanik talks about how they're not gonna watch this sham hearing, they're gonna focus on the things Americans care about, the way that they didn't focus on the things Americans cared about when politicians were trying to do something about two of those issues that apparently Americans do care about. So how much does Elise Stefanik care about those issues and this sham hearing? I'm gonna let you jump in first, yes, because there's a lot more, because those idiots behind her also spoke.
I feel like there's like 3 or 4 different topics that you just covered, so I will do my best to comment on all of them. I mean, starting off with Fox News refusing to cover the January 6th hearings. I mean, objectively, this is a bigger story than Watergate, right? This is the biggest thing, that is the biggest threat to our democracy as a nation in the history of our nation. And the fact that they're refusing to cover it is just like, they can't even call themselves a journalistic outlet anymore, especially not one of the major news outlets in the United States. So that's one thing. The other thing was the victim blaming of Nancy Pelosi for the January 6th insurrection. That was fun.
Yeah.
She didn't do enough to stop something that they had already started. So it's all her fault, I guess. Then if you want to talk about oil and gas, it is important, I think, to understand that all the Republicans voted against the measure to fight price gouging at the pump, but also a few Democrats voted against it. And the reasons that they gave don't really hold up. And those reasons are also reflected on the Republican side as well. But one of them is that the government is now trying to punish a capitalistic corporation who's just, doing business the way a capitalistic corporation should be doing, but that isn't the case. These corporations are not being unjustly demonized, right? Just last year, or I think in 2021, 28 oil and gas executives made $394 million total, right? And 31 million of those were just in bonuses. So I don't think that the oil and gas industry is struggling for money. I don't think they're suffering. I don't think they need any kind of capitalistic reimbursement or anything like that, or protections from the legislator. And then the baby formula thing is another capitalism gone wrong story. 40% of the baby formula in this country comes from only one company. So it's really just a monopolistic corporate practice. And that's what we're fighting against. And that's why babies don't have formula.
Well,
I think I covered a lot.
You would think Elise Stefanik's people, maybe her staffers, would have clued her in on any of those facts that you just went through, yes. But that's not their job. Their job is to come up with empty pushback and redirection to make sure no one's talking about either one of those issues. Or if they're talking about it, they're talking about it without that information, so that there can be a blame game going on as to what it is. So by the way, even if you don't like the things that they were looking to do with those two policies, what's your idea? Have you guys noticed that yet? There's no ideas from Republicans outside of allow these companies and corporations to continue to do what they're doing because that's politically expedient for them. That's helpful to what they're looking to do in the midterms. As I said, Jim Jordan was also standing behind here, and he took his opportunity to misdirect from the January 6th hearings as well because he's afraid.
And as Elise said, they're so focused on this, they've hired the former president of ABC News to produce their partisan documentary. And who is their first witness? A documentarian. So this tells us how political this thing is. And as Ms. Stefanik mentioned, I think the American people have figured it out. But their focus on attacking their political opponents is so strong, they don't care about the rules. They didn't follow the rules, how the resolution that says how you're supposed to form this committee, they didn't follow those rules. First time in the history of the Congress that the minority leader was not allowed to put on a select committee the individuals he or she had selected. First time in the 232-year history of our great country. And of course, we have caught this committee altering evidence and lying to the American people about it.
So the altering of evidence that he's talking about there are more of his misdirection, as you said. It's the normal talking points. But the altering of evidence is when they didn't include a full quote that he tweeted at Mark Meadows during January 6th when he was suggesting that they go about with this plan. So Jim Jordan's upset about how this is going because he's also part of it. One more piece here, because a reporter did ask Jim Jordan at the end of this press conference, well, what about when Kevin McCarthy had an issue with what Donald Trump was doing on January 6th in those leaked audio tapes that Kevin McCarthy wanted no one to hear? And you're gonna get the best answer for the first time from this committee or this group of idiots about how much they care about what happened on January 6th. This is the question and answer.
And in the days after January 6th, audio that has been revealed shows Leader McCarthy expressing concern about then President Trump's conduct on the day of January 6th. More than a year later, do any of you on stage still have any concerns about how the former president acted that day, January 6, 2021, or want to learn more information about how he handled that day?
No, I think we're focused on what our conference chair indicated, what our whip indicated. We're focused on the concerns the American people have, American families have.
Short answer, no. Last thoughts, Yaz, before we move on to Marjorie Taylor Greene and her deflections?
Last thoughts. I mean, as far as Fox News goes and as far as the GOP goes, Obviously, it makes sense why they don't want any of this stuff being aired and they don't want their people to be watching it, because a lot of these guys, both Fox News anchors and members of our Congress, they were complicit in all of this. So of course they don't want people watching it. That's it. And a lot of this was a long time coming. I feel like a lot of this was premeditated from the very beginning. Whenever Trump was running for president back in 2015-16, we started hearing about fake news. He immediately started demonizing the press, which is in the Bill of Rights, the freedom of press and things like that. I mean, he called into question all of the credibility of our major news outlets. And to be fair, like, they're not all perfect, but they're not what the GOP has made them out to be, especially whenever they keep, hyping up places like OAN and Newsmax and even Fox News.